Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Penfriends podcast. My name is Caitlin,
And I'm Becca.
and I have had a pretty interesting week. I am
Yeah.
now in Ohio,
Oh.
um, doing that stuff. How was your week? First of all, how was your week?
Um, it was pretty good actually. It was my last full week with the kids, and since this is Memorial Day weekend, we have Monday off, so I only have 3 more days
Oh
with
my
my
goodness.
kiddos, and I pretty much finished everything that I need to do before the end of the year. I still need to schedule some conferences, but other than that, I'm like checked out into summer land because the week literally like my last day of work is June 8th, and then that following Tuesday, the 13th, I'm on a plane to Florida for the week.
Oh
So
man.
I'm
Oh,
like, I'm ready to go for
I'm
sure.
so jealous you're going.
Yeah, it's so amazing because I'm going to Disney and Avatar Land. I call it Avatar Land, but they opened Pandora in Animal Kingdom yesterday.
Ooh,
Mhm. I'm so
oh man.
excited.
We watched Avatar last night. Like my one of the friends I made here, Riley, she was like, I've been wanting to watch Avatar and we don't work tomorrow. Do you want to stay up late with me and watch it? I was like, sure. So we started at like 11:40 and we didn't get done until like 3 a.m. And I fell asleep like once in the
Of
middle
course
because
you
it,
did.
but I woke up for the end. I slept for like it was like a
Oh,
5 minutes and she shook me.
the end is the best part though. The
Yeah,
very,
no.
very end is
I
my favorite part of
I
the whole
saw at the
movie.
beginning and the
Oh,
middle and the end.
I got like I don't know, it must be like the extended collector's edition or something because it has deleted scenes in it.
Mm,
And you know how like when you get movies like that, it kind of just plays it with the rest of the movie.
yeah.
So I was like, wait a second, what's happening? Because I didn't like realize that we got it with deleted scenes. And so I was like, what is happening? It hasn't been that long since I've seen this movie, but it was really cool. The deleted scenes are pretty sick. I
Hmm.
like them a lot.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'll have to get the because we just um, acquired it by other means to
Oh,
watch it
yeah.
yesterday. So I don't know if it was the extended version. It's been years since I've seen Avatar.
Oh.
And so most of the plot to me was like forgotten, but Sigourney Weaver is still a very good looking woman and I
Hmm.
appreciate her. I tweeted last night after at like 3:30. I was like, we watched Avatar and I appreciate Sigourney Weaver now as a young adult woman way more than I did when I was a kid. And I've never
Oh.
seen like Aliens, and was she an alien or Aliens?
I don't know. I've
Whichever.
never seen it. Have you seen Holes though? Because she's in Holes
Oh, she is in Holes.
and
Yeah,
she's rad. She's so
Sigourney
cool.
Weaver.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love her.
she's good. Um, I think my friend wants me to watch Aliens. She's like, it's more suspenseful, so
Hmm.
I'll have to give word if I actually watch it and see because I don't like scary things. Although I wanted to tell you two things related to scary stories.
Hmm.
I'll talk about Ohio eventually, but um, one is that I started reading Pen Pal to my friends like
Oh,
immediately,
yes.
and so I started reading Pen Pal. One friend had to check out early, so he's a little behind, but
Oh,
my friend Riley likes to sit and listen while she sews. She brought sewing stuff with her. And yeah, so I've been reading Pen Pal to her while she reads, and she has one more part left. She's on the
man.
very last part.
What does she think
Yeah,
of it?
she really likes it. She's like, it's really suspenseful. I bought the book version, and I wanted to read out loud the book
What?
version.
You
Yeah,
bought
no,
the book version?
not the physical book. I bought
Oh,
it for my Kindle. It was like
oh,
$2,
oh
but
man.
it is different. It is extended very slightly. The stories themselves from the original Reddit posts have like more detail in them.
Oh my God, I'm buying the physical one. That just made me
Yeah.
think I need to get the physical copy. I
Oh yeah.
cannot wait for the spook cast. I'm
Oh
so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
excited.
We're
I'm like
totally talking
screaming into
about.
my microphone, so have fun editing. I'm like watching my audio clip on my QuickTime audio recording, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll just be, bleeding ears in the middle of Starbucks when I edit this later.
Sorry
It's
about
cool.
it. So you're making
Um,
friends? You're
I
making
am making
friends in
friends.
Ohio?
I am making friends in
Oh
Ohio.
my
Two other
goodness.
friends who live down the hall have been playing Until Dawn as well. And
Oh,
so
can
one
I
of them
just
has
come live
never,
with you guys?
I know we're like doing your two favorite things, playing Until Dawn and, um, reading Pen Pal.
Yeah.
So one girl, they both work in the costume shop with me. One girl has never played it before, so she's the one playing through the first
Oh
time,
my
and the
God.
other friend and I like know what's happening, and so
And
we're
you're
trying to
like a
get her to
girl.
see.
I know all the tricks and secrets because I've played it 6 times.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. So we're trying to get her to like get most of the clues and like trying to lead her to find the clues
Mhm.
because there's a bunch. I don't want to spoil the game for anyone, but I'm
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for Until Dawn. If right when you're playing as Sam, right before you discover that Josh is the psycho,
Yeah.
there are so many clues in there that like lead
I
to the fact that he's the
know.
psycho, like the blueprints and the the text messages from the doctor and the voice
Yes.
recording.
That's my
And so
favorite clue is the text messages.
yeah.
Hmm.
So she found the first two and she missed the blueprints. We were like, she's like, Josh can't be the killer. Like, he can't. I saw him die. And we were like, maybe you should go back and try to find another clue. And she found the blueprints of the rig of, with
Oh,
the pig guts and
yes.
stuff. And she was like, oh my God. Like, she just was so, I want to watch them play more because they're getting now to the good part with the Wendigos.
And
And
then you'll have to show them the game theory
yeah.
episodes. Oh, yes.
Yeah,
So
my
good.
the one friend who played it before had watched those videos, but we wanted to
Oh,
wait until she's done with the game to watch them because the one about Josh is really good with
yes, it
the
is.
real
Matt
who the
Pat
real
is
killer
like
is.
everything to me.
Yeah.
I love Matt Pat.
I like his videos. He's been talking more about Hello Neighbor lately, and that game just freaks me out because there's
Well, it's
new
not hit
builds.
like on Game Theory Live. Has he been doing it?
Not on Game Theory Live. Well, is it him? I don't know.
Because then it's not him. It's
It
Austin. I don't like
oh
Austin. Sorry,
oh
Austin. I don't like you very much.
oh damn. Oh, the shade.
He's really loud.
Oh.
I don't like it.
Yeah, you like quiet. So yeah, Ohio. So I moved in Tuesday. That was really fun. Um, my dad brought me down, and it's about 4 hours from where I live
Mhm.
to where we are in Ohio. And we get here. I had to do the drug test,
Mhm. Mhm.
which I knew I was gonna be like, clean for, but I had eaten food like a half hour before,
Mhm.
and I peed there. But I was having pop, and I took
Oh.
the pop with me. I
Mhm.
thought I would be able to pee again, but I couldn't. So you couldn't leave.
Mhm.
Excuse me. Wow, you couldn't leave the testing area,
Right.
because they would be suspicious. So I had to stay there while my dad was in the car, and I felt so bad. It took me like another half an hour after drinking 6 cups of water to like have to pee again because you need like half a cup.
Mhm. Oh, I know.
It
I've had to do many a drug test for employment purposes, not for
right.
other
No,
purposes.
Becca's a huge druggie,
No,
and
I'm really not.
I'm not either. Spoiler alert, we're like PC as hell. Oh
Yeah.
no, not PC, vanilla.
Yeah.
Also PC. Anyway, so I did that, and then we got there, and I had registered, but because I'm an employee of the college, I needed to like officially register. I have like an ID, which was more than I had last year. Like this is my key to like get into the
Whoa.
building, and it has my picture and stuff, but I wasn't in the system because HR was so backed up with like
Oh.
putting people in. So I had to wait like another 20
Oh
minutes
my
with my
gosh.
dad sitting in the car. I felt so bad. But it's not like we could help with it at all,
Mhm.
it's just what happens. So, yeah, we waited there, and when I finally got into the system, I was like, okay, good. Then I'm in. I get my key card in. I'm on the third floor, so that was a little bit of a struggle getting up, like my mini
Mhm.
fridge and stuff. But there's a freight elevator. It's a very scary freight elevator, so we
Ugh.
used that for a little bit. But um, I'll have to like move around my camera and show you the entire space because it's a decent sized room. And I'm in it by myself, so I'm really happy with that. And after being here for a week, I'm like, oh, I miss doing theater. It's nice being back in a shop. And we
Yeah.
have like 14 people, I
Whoa.
want to say. There's a separate wardrobe crew,
Mhm.
which I've, never really worked with before. They've been doing their own wardrobe stuff, and I'm specifically only stitching. Like, that is, I'm altering clothes, I'm helping make clothes. We have a first hand and a draper who've been helping patterning and figuring out how to make the clothes we need to make. It's way more extensive than
Wowza.
what I did with, CMU, and a way more extensive than what I did with Holland. We had a
Mhm.
first hand who was also a draper last year when I was in Holland, but there was still like 7 of us. And so it's really nice being in we set up a shop in a dance studio. Like we brought in machines and stuff so we'd all have room. So it's been really fun. We've been working hard. The first show is Music Man, and that opens in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I
Mhm.
feel. So I'll be back in Michigan the weekend before for my sister's graduation party, and then I'll come back here, and then it'll be like the week of Music Man. So yeah, I'm excited. It's
That's so
it's so
exciting.
good so far. And I like clicked immediately with 2 girls in my hallway, and I've been like discovering where people live, um, within the building. And
Mhm.
then my friend Dom, who was here, not here, who I met last year, he's in a different building,
Mm.
but he comes and hangs out like all the time. So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm real happy to be here. It's gonna be a fun summer. So all the shenanigans. Oh, we're going on Monday. I'll have to tell you next week. On Monday, we're going to this big Amish settlement. Not settlement. I don't want to say settlement.
Yes.
It's like an Amish town, like a bunch of crafters and things like that.
Yes.
There's a huge fabric store there. So we're all going to
Oh,
the fabric store. And then there are like 2 cheese factories within the area. So we're going to cheese factories
that's awesome.
and you can test the cheese and buy it. So I'm buying a hella cheese for my sandwiches and crackers and all that stuff. And my
Mhm.
tummy will be mad at me, but I don't care. Amish cheese. It's
Yes.
like all gourmet stuff. I'm really
Mhm.
excited. Anyway, I've been thinking about vlogging it just so I have
You
an
should.
excuse to like vlog. Not an excuse to vlog, but I really can't film at work. So this will be a nice change of I was about to say change of space. Change of pace. Wow. All right.
You should
So yeah,
vlog. That would be super cool. And I'd
I
like to
think I'm
see it.
going to. Yeah. So that's been my week. So what was the topic we decided for this week?
Well, last week we talked about mental health because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, but May is also Teacher Appreciation Month. So we
Mm-hmm.
are going to talk about teachers that influenced us in some way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think it's a really good topic. I mean, I'm going to start off with saying that everyone in my family is teachers, and so they're being excluded from the list because um, while I went to the school that my dad taught at, I never actually had him as a teacher. So
Oh,
if my parents listen to this and they're like, "Why am I not your number one most influential teacher?" That's why. So we're going to talk about other people. So you want to start at the beginning? You want to talk about like elementary school?
yeah. Um, Let me think here.
I know it's so long ago that I feel like all those teachers back then were influential in some way,
Hmm.
you know? I remember a few names. Did we want to name teachers? I don't know.
Um, I mean, if it's super positive, then yeah.
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't, I think, I mean, all we're doing then is shouting them out. So
Yeah, for sure.
I remember, well, I remember like little bits from all of my grades. Like, I remember a couple things from kindergarten. And my kindergarten teacher, I'm pretty sure if I went back, I don't think she's still there anymore. But if I were to go back, she's the type of teacher that would remember me even now. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that was really cool about my elementary school. I always really liked that because like my best friend Allegra, her older sister Lyndon went to the same elementary school and I don't know, now I'm thinking it's probably just a teacher thing because I'm now a preschool teacher. So like getting to know the families, that's like something that you need to do. But like remembering them even after they leave and they're like much older, and when they come back they still remember like that you have an older sister named Lyndon and she went here, and you also have younger siblings. Like that's a super cool thing that I always remember about my elementary school. Like my principal always remembered everything about everyone, which was
Wow.
like above and beyond. But um I don't know. I remember like a couple fun things from kindergarten, and then but the first like teacher that I remember really is my second grade teacher. Her name was Mrs. Armbruster, and she was really rad and super creative. And I remember getting to do like really cool things in the classroom, and she rewarded us with um, like these peach flavored gummy penguins that we called peachy penguins because that was our theme for the class. We were all penguins. So I remember that a lot. And I just remember her being like super creative and doing stuff with us. That way, I remember doing like building with wood pieces and learning number placement in a really unique way too. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's so cute. I
hmm
like peachy
Yeah,
penguins.
peachy penguins. And I still think about that like from time to time.
Yeah.
And we had like a student teacher when I was in second grade, and he was really cool. I think all the little girls had like a crush on him because he was one of the only guys teachers in our school, and he was pretty young, like he was in college, obviously, a student teacher. And but his other job was at the family fair that
Mm-hmm.
was like in our neighborhood. So I remember going and we'd like run into him at the store, and he would give me like a little bag of peachy penguins to take.
Oh,
Yeah, so I remember that. He was really great. I don't remember his name, but I remember that.
that's really cute.
Mhm.
Elementary school, because I moved down to where my family is now in that area. So I moved from, it was the summer between third grade and fourth grade. So I remember my fourth and fifth grade teacher quite
Mhm.
clearly, and they were pretty cool. Um, I don't think I could remember their names either. It's been so long. But the one project I remember doing, I remember two projects I did in the fourth and fifth grade. One was I had to research an animal and make a diorama. So I made a lynx in a forest, and
Cool.
it was just in a shoebox. I remember doing that. And then I remember it was, this was a little weird. It was February, because that's African American
Mhm.
History Month. And so for a project we had to research and do a presentation as a prominent African American figure. So it's all these little white kids
Mhm.
being African American people. And we weren't doing it, we weren't doing it like maliciously. None of us were in
No.
blackface. It
Yeah.
wasn't like that. We just had to present as if we were the person. And I was Ella Fitzgerald. And I sang one of her songs, a
Cool.
little piece of it. And my mom dressed me up, of course, because she had clothes that Ella Fitzgerald would have worn. I remember that pretty clearly. That was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
I was in my sister and I kind of overlapped in schooling, and so we had to be dropped off early for morning kids care
Mhm.
because my parents taught. Well, my dad did at the time, and I think my mom had a different job. But we would hang out with all the kids, in the morning and then sometimes in the afternoon. So I remember that pretty clearly too.
That's
Yeah.
so cool. I
hmm
remember in like my fourth grade teacher pretty vividly. He had a really long name that started with a D, so we mostly just called him Mr. D. And he was really into science. And I remember like I was really into science too. Like just like he was the one who first showed us Bill Nye videos. So I
Mm-hmm.
vividly remember that. And then he had like this reward system where you could get like these coupon or like dollars or whatever, and he had like a little shop that he would open up every once in a while, and it had like nature objects in it, like shells and feathers and different really cool like naturey things. And I remember I really wanted this one shell, and I think I still have it somewhere. And I saved up all year long, like literally all year long, for this one shell. And when it was the last time he was opening up the little shop, and I was so excited. I'm like, I can finally get it. And my best friend got like a matching one, and I went to give it to him, and I didn't have enough. And I was
Oh
so
no.
upset. And I was like, it's okay, I'll get something else. And he was like, no, you know what? You can have it. You can just have
Oh.
it. So I still have that somewhere. But I remember that really vividly. And I remember him like really influencing my love for science and the outdoors. So that was really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, we had a little store, but it was always like school, like pencils and little notebooks and things like that. Well, we had a little a little school store as well that we with the fake money.
Yeah.
I remember that too. That's like a quintessential elementary school thing. I
Yeah.
feel like because it's kind of teaching you economics in a way,
I mean,
you
it's
know.
not anymore. There's so many other trendy behavioral management
Yeah.
techniques that I don't necessarily agree with, but they're trends. They're starting to fall out, so that's kind of good. But I
Hmm.
think that stuff like that should definitely make a comeback. It's hard though, because, like, I mean, in my teacher's case, you know that those are all stuff that he probably got from his personal collection of knickknacks and
Right.
found things. And whenever a teacher has like a little store or shop like that in their classroom, you know that they're getting it all with their own money.
Hmm.
So it can be hard, especially I think it's harder for younger teachers because we're still trying to get out of our college debt. And so it's harder for us to be able to justify spending our own money on little things like that you know, like as an adult, you feel like the kids aren't appreciating it, but you never know. They might grow up and
Right.
make a podcast and be like, I remember when Miss Caitlin had a little store and we bought pencils. Like,
Right.
you never know. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, elementary school was a good time. I remember
hmm
that. But um, do you have any? I guess we'll go through the grades. So we did elementary school. So any middle school influential teachers?
yeah, because my middle school, I um went to a whole different school for just sixth grade. So my sixth grade was very influential to me. I think I told you about this. I went
Oh,
to
okay. Yeah, yeah,
school.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Should I
I
just
remember
tell
you
my
telling me
whole
about this.
story about my sixth grade school? Because that was like
Yes.
very influential. Okay. So I went to the school. It's in Michigan. It's called Blandford School, and it's at a nature center. And I mean, it looks way cool now. I drove you past it. It did not look
Yeah, I remember doing
anything
that.
like that when I went, but um, it was at a nature center, so we did some traditional schooling topics, like I did math, we did reading and stuff like that. But a lot of the stuff I learned was like life experience type things. Like we tapped trees in the springtime and made maple syrup. We each got a chicken at the beginning of the school year, and we had to together, as a school, because it was only 30 kids split up into two classes, we took care of the chicken coop and we collected the eggs and we came up with our business name and we sold our eggs to the community. And in the winter, we went cross country skiing through the nature center, and then we took a trip to Cannonsburg and went downhill skiing when it was like too cold and stuff to do gym outside because we didn't have a gym, obviously. Like the world was our gym. We went into our barn and learned how to square dance and stuff like
Wow.
that, which was really cool. I mean, it was kind of cheesy, but super cool. Um, in the fall, we did, your project made me remember, we did international night where we each were assigned a different country and we had to do like a presentation on our different countries. So I remember I had Switzerland, and for my presentation, I borrowed some snowshoes. And so I walked around the room, and everyone like tried on the snowshoes that we would later use during the winter time. And I
Mm-hmm.
talked about Switzerland, and then that night, um, we all had our presentations set up at the public museum, and we had to bring a main course dish from our country and a dessert dish. And so I remember I made souffle that night, which was
Oh.
really cool. And then we were all put into these different international dances. Like, oh man, I wish I could remember the names of them. I just remember that I did Chinese ribbon dancing. And so we learned like a little routine with our ribbons, and all the girls had chopsticks in their hair. And this whole night was like broadcast on the local TV channel or whatever. And I remember that when I was dancing, like my ribbon got tangled in my hair.
Oh
And I
no.
like flawlessly untangled it and like kept going, and everyone was like, "Whoa!" And I was like, "Oh my
Nice.
gosh!" But that was really cool for the whole month of December. And I think it basically started like when we came back from Thanksgiving. We auditioned for a play that they do every year. Every year they do A Christmas Carol, and
Okay.
it's shadow cast. So basically, like, if you're not one of the actors, you're in the chorus, and the chorus sings whatever is happening on stage. And so, like, all the actors are just pantomiming along with whatever we're singing. And there's narrators and stuff too. So I was like the very last narrator, so I got to do Tiny Tim's line, God bless us everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really amazing because that was like the first time that I did theater. So that definitely, I was like, I need to do this all the time, every day, for the rest of my life. I want to do theater. I'm not doing that now, obviously, but I still consider it just a hobby. And we got certified as trail guides for the nature center. So, like, the elementary schools would come on field trips and we would lead them around the nature center.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool year for sixth grade. And we
Yeah.
went backpacking for spring camp, which was like 2 weeks long or a week long or something like that. We went backpacking in Ludington on the sand dunes, and we like camped in the dunes and stuff like that, and
Oh,
it was so cool.
that's sixth grade for
Yeah,
you?
that was my sixth grade.
Damn.
It was
Damn.
all like, I mean, it was so me. And there's another school like that at the zoo. And so there was
Oh.
Blandford and there was Zoo School. So there were like rival schools for sixth grade. So if you went to zoo school, you took care of the animals at the zoo
Ugh, my dream.
and did everything like that. And I remember because for fall camp, or maybe it was, well, we all got our boating license in sixth grade too. And so we learned how to canoe in the pond at the zoo. And so that was like kind of cool because we like took a field trip to zoo school and we like, we're on your pond. And they were like, get out of here. And we were
Oh
like,
my God.
no, we're canoeing. Don't you wish you were as cool as us? And they were at school and watching us canoe. So that was kind of funny. But
Oh
yeah.
man. I want a little sitcom about plant school versus zoo school and
It's like
I'll
Plants
just
vs. Zombies.
Oh my God, you're right.
But
Oh, that'd be
yeah.
so
It
cute.
was so cool. And I remember doing a project where I had to collect different leaves and
Mm-hmm.
like put it into a really cool like book. And I went above and beyond and like got a wood burning kit, and like we were remodeling our basement, and our basement had paneling. So we took some paneling like from the walls and made it into the cover of my book. And then I like
Oh my
wood
God.
burned onto the book. But we had like these tree identification book things. It's basically like, does your leaf have 3 leaves? If so, turn to page such and such. And so you like ended up at whatever tree it was, hopefully. And
Wow.
I still have that book. And Josh thinks it's super cool, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a whatever tree because it was so ingrained in me, and birds too. So I know like a lot of random things about birds and plant life. Yeah.
Damn.
Uh-huh. It was super
Damn.
cool. Mhm.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, you drove me by. I remember that was in your hometown, right?
Yeah.
So I remember driving by. I think I came to visit you, and we went by that school, and you're like, "Oh my gosh!" Like they updated everything, or
It's
it looks so
huge now.
different.
They have a huge garden and they have a goat. So they have like other
Oh
animals
yeah.
and they
Uh-huh.
must have converted that barn into like an actual barn. So yeah, it looks way different. I don't even know if the same teachers are there, but oh, and the one, 'cause like those schools, it was really cool because it's like a community thing. So like if you're in the west side of Grand Rapids, basically, that's where I live, is like people know about Blandford and like
Mm-hmm.
other people like you see kids wearing like Blandford sweatshirts and you feel like kind of connected to them because everyone there has a number, so that's how you know where to stand in line. So like 1 through 30 is one class and 31 through 60 is another class. And I was number 39. I remember that because we needed to write our number on every paper that we
Yeah.
did and I had a lady teacher and a guy teacher. My guy teacher did math and science, and my lady teacher did like social studies and English. And she was like notorious for giving people nicknames.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted a nickname like really bad, and I ended up getting one because me and my friends were like super into American Girl dolls and like Bitty Babies. But um, one of my friends one day, like we were just chatting at the table, and my teacher happened to walk by. She was like saying something about how it's like Bitty Babies, but since I'm so small, it's like Bitty Becca. And my
Oh,
teacher really liked that and was like, "Oh, Biddy Beck." And so that's my
that
nickname.
was
And
your
there's
nickname.
still like some kids that I went to sixth grade, went to Blandford with that will call me Biddy Beck because that was my name, essentially. Like once you get a
Yeah.
nickname, like that's your name. And you like then she would say like you need to write that on all your papers, like 'cause that's your name now. And I'm
Oh
like,
wow,
"Oh,
that's
okay."
really extreme.
But it was like kind of funny because she was like, "Becca, who's that?" And I'm like, "Me." And she's like, "Oh, Biddy Beck, okay." And so it
Wow,
just
that's really
like,
extreme.
yeah, it was cute though.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Mhm.
sure when you're that age, looking back at it now, and I'm like, your school sounds like the school from Pen Pal, like the
Yep.
alternative schooling.
But like there would be other students that would come back and be like, "I was number uh 32. Who's number 32?" And so then you feel like connected to
Yeah.
all these people, which is
Generational.
yeah, super cool.
Yeah, I was always number like 6 or 7 because my last name starts with E, so I was
Mhm.
always like, wait, I was up there.
Mhm.
Middle school, okay, so my dad teaches at a middle school, and we moved down to where I am now because he got the job. It was being brand newly built. So he started making friends with all the teachers there. So by the time I got to middle school, I knew most of the teachers there because I would see them all the time. And he got really close with my eventual choir teacher because she was the one who did the musicals in the middle
Mhm.
school, and he either helped produce or he did set design a few times. Um, Miss Falls. And so by the time I got to, middle school, she was like an aunt to me,
Mhm.
So it was really weird because I would call her by her first name, and then I would have to call her Miss Falls in in at school. But I felt really cool knowing her already. I was like, yeah, I'm like good friends with her, and I go get like we would get Sunday breakfast like
Aw.
all the time with her. And it just was, and my sister had her as a teacher too in middle school. So she was a pretty influential teacher because that was one of my earliest experiences with theater being on stage was being in the musicals she produced. She did one every other year.
Mhm.
And in 6th grade, I was in Crazy for You, which I was just a chorus member, but in 8th grade, I was in Thoroughly Modern Millie, and I played the villain in that, and that was my first huge role. And like people will still remember me playing that role, and they're like, you like did a really good job for an eighth
Aw.
grader, you know. And so, did I ever show you that video? I
Yeah,
have a
you
taping
did.
of that show.
Mhm.
It's just so funny to go back and watch that, because all the people that I knew looked so young, and then seeing them in high school, you know,
Yeah.
or seeing them now is in like their early 20s. It's just weird.
It
But
is
yeah,
weird. Mhm.
but a lot of teachers in middle school were influential to me also in my early life, because I knew them outside. Like
Yeah.
I remember all of them coming over for our housewarming party when we moved down there, because my dad knew them. And so I was like, eventually I like went back, you know, eventually when I got to middle school, I like remember like, oh, you've been at my house before. Like I just never really realized the connection of that. So yeah, yeah,
That's really
there were a lot of
cool.
good teachers there my dad made friends with. And then even the tech guys, like the computer guys, because that's who my dad is in the band with.
Mhm.
Are people who
Oh,
work for are people who work for the school district.
that's
So I
so
would see them
cute.
around the school. Yeah, yeah. So I would see them around the school, and I'm really like, you play in the band with my dad, and they're like, yeah, I do. Now I know their names, but like when I'm in middle school, I like don't really remember. So
That's really
yeah,
funny.
high school though was pretty influential to me. Um, as well. And you were at Catholic school at this point, weren't you?
No, just for junior and senior year.
Oh,
So for
okay.
7th through 10th grade, I went to public school.
Mhm.
And it was basically like if you go to Blandford or Zoo School, you go to this because Blandford and Zoo School, those were kind of like advanced schools. You had to
Mhm.
test to get in, and it was like based on your scores and stuff like that. They only accept 60 kids each. And so then you go on to this advanced middle and high school that's called City High and City Middle High. And so, and you have to test, do like extensive testing to get into that school. And so I got in there and I ended up reconnecting with some of my childhood friends, which was really cool. Like Allegra ended up
Mhm.
going to, so I didn't see her for 6th grade, and it was like kind of weird because we fell out a little bit
Yeah.
because I switched schools and she didn't. And then we reconnected in 7th grade and we're fine now. So that's like,
It's fine.
yeah,
We're fine now.
it's fine now. But yeah, I don't know. We did like some pretty cool projects there, but there's one teacher. Shout out to Miss Peterson. I should send her this link because she will listen to my podcast. She was a hippie. She's a straight up hippie. And she was so cool. And she was our English teacher in 7th grade. And she's only supposed, or no, wait. I don't think she was my English teacher in 7th grade. Um, Maybe she was. I think she was my English teacher the whole time. Or maybe it was in high school. I don't know. But she was like the coolest. She was so cool. Um, and um yeah, she was a straight hippie. She called us all her little passion flowers
Oh
and
my
just
God.
had like super hippie lingo, and I'm like, this is my lady. Like this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. And she was so into Greek mythology that I'm sure that we should have been learning like other things, but for like 2 straight years all we learned was Greek mythology. And that's when I read Dante's Inferno. And that's like
Mhm.
one of my favorite books, and we did the coolest project where we for each chapter we had a student teacher during that time too. For each chapter we had to draw a picture of that like layer in hell,
Oh
and
my
then
goodness.
at the end we lined them all up because the classroom was at the bottom, like in the basement. And it was the only classroom that was in the basement, so there's a stairwell that went down to it. And so we started at the top of the stairwell and lined all our pictures up so we were like descending into like the levels of hell. It was so cool. That
I
was
remember you telling me this story, and I remember it being really cool.
it was so cool. And we had to do projects on like Greek gods, and I remember doing Aphrodite, and she was super cool. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I remember all of that. Um, what else? Middle school, we were in like we were in a different building, and it was real small. And at City, there's no sports or anything, so we didn't have gym either. We had a PE class that we had to take, but we had to walk to a park and we did like ultimate frisbee and we went bowling and stuff like that. So I always went to these weird like alternative schools where there's no sports. And if you wanted to play sports, you had to play for like other public schools. So it was
Hmm.
kind of cool because it was like another community type thing where it's like, yeah, we go to this school, but we're also involved with all these other schools, and it was really, really interesting. Um, my music teacher, though, I keep wanting to talk about this. I had the same music teacher my entire life. Like,
Whoa.
yeah, so at my elementary school, we had a music teacher. His name was Mr. Schroeder. And so that was like our basic, music. We went and sang songs and did our concerts and stuff like that. When we got into third grade, they said that we'd get our recorders in fourth grade. When we got to fourth grade, they said it'd be fifth grade, and then we never got to play recorders.
Oh,
So
damn.
and then when I went to Blandford, we got to do our instruments, and Mr. Schroeder was my music teacher, and I was like, what the heck? So that was like super cool. And I played a couple of different instruments because, I mean, he knew me from elementary school. He knew I was super tiny, and we needed to find an instrument that would fit me the best. And finally, I found my clarinet, which I still have. Um, and then I went from Blandford to City, and he was my band teacher in at City. So the only time that I
Huh.
didn't have him was when I switched to Catholic school junior year. But when I was at my public school, I did forensics, which is like competitive speech and drama. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's different events. I did a duo where I had a partner and we um, did um, like a theater piece and then went and competed it, but she had like horrible, horrible stage fright, I guess, and
Oh.
didn't like the only reason that she was doing forensics was because I was doing it, but she never wanted to actually compete. And I remember like I would get so pissed because um I was super into it and she like didn't want to and I'm like, "Well, if you don't want to do it, then like don't do it." And she's like, "No, I want to." But then when we would get on the bus to compete, like she would be really late getting there to the
Mm.
point where we didn't think that she would show. And then she would tell me like on the bus that cuz she was allergic to oranges and she's like, "Yeah, I downed like 3 cups of orange juice this morning because I didn't want to come to the competition." And I was like so pissed because I'm like, girl, I've been practicing. And if you don't want to do it, then like don't do it. And
Right,
then we
yeah.
got to the competition and she like ran out of the room. And I was so pissed. But then I did a multiple, which is basically what you're supposed to do is take a musical and condense it down into 15 minutes
Mm-hmm.
basically, and like they come out really cool. But me and my friends were really weird. Like we were oddballs in high school
I can only
and
imagine.
in middle school-ish. I think this was in ninth grade, ninth or 10th grade, and I'd wanted to direct a multiple for so long, and I was cast in one, but then they ended up not doing it. And then we decided we were going to do Rent. And I cut that whole piece down into 15 minutes and it still like made sense. I remember being on the phone with Allegro for like hours, like cutting pieces and making sure that it still made sense. And then we cast like people in it and then they like didn't never showed up for practices, so we couldn't do that. So then we were gonna do Finding Nemo. We were like, let's do Finding Nemo because it's a movie and we can like get that and it'll be super cute. And no one wanted to do that. So finally we settled on I had done a multiple in middle school, and it was like kind of like forensics junior. So I remember
Yeah.
only going to one competition, and I did a multiple with these three other girls, and we did the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, like the
Mm-hmm.
first chapter of it that basically sets up the whole story. And so me and my friends decided to do that because I'm like, girl, I already like I still remember how it went. So we did that and we were so not like everyone else at any of the competitions. Like we never placed. Like our piece was horrible, but we
Oh
were
man.
definitely the ones having the most fun. And so everyone wanted to be friends with us. So we made a lot of friends.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that's so cute.
I wanted to place because I'd been doing forensics for years
Mm-hmm.
and we never placed or anything and I would get so mad because I'm like, "Oh, we're putting so much work into it." But then
Yeah.
Allegra is like, "But look at all these people that we're meeting. Like we're meeting all these friends." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess you're right." And everyone remembered us
Yeah.
because we were the weirdos that did the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants of all things when people are doing like Evita and Once Upon This Island and Beauty and the Beast, Jekyll and Hyde, and then the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
I think it would have been interesting to go in with like Finding Nemo. That
Yeah,
would have been cute.
it was really cool. I remember trying to cut that down, but we couldn't get it to make sense. Like I remember getting the movie script and we could not get it to like flow right. So then we couldn't
Mm.
do it, which was a bummer. But
Yeah.
yeah, I did another category. This is turning into like forensics, but whatever. It was a big part of my high school because we didn't have sports. So forensics was like our sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I did sales was my other category and I sold Kool-Aid and I'm like I'm always just the oddball out. Like I just did whatever I wanted to do. Like people would go in like business suits with these professional displays and I came in my like I don't know, I had like super bright outfits with hand painted poster board visuals and I placed in one competition out of default, but then I made it to states, which is how I traveled to CMU.
Oh,
And
okay.
I went and competed in more at CMU. And once I got on that campus, that's when I was like, I'm going here. This is where I'm gonna go for college. And that stuck with me. Even when I transferred schools and everything, my goal was CMU, which a lot of people think that that's like kind of strange because it's not. I don't know. Other people shoot for like Ivy League schools or like U of M or state. And I'm like, I didn't apply anywhere else except CMU. So,
Yeah, I was the same because I'm originally from that area,
mhm.
and so my parents both went there, and they were still pretty young when they had me, so I lived on campus for the first few years.
Yeah.
We lived with my grandma off campus, but when I was like 3, I clearly remember living on that campus.
And going
In
to the CDL for your preschool.
Yeah, yeah, I talked to you about this. So
Mhm.
I went to the daycare, preschool, whatever, Head Start, whatever it was called. I don't know.
It's a
Um,
preschool, but they do Head Start now too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I went there and looking back, I was like being observed and like,
Mhm.
things like that. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, I was like, I didn't want to go to anywhere else because that was so familiar to me, and I really liked, the campus and stuff. And I don't know if it was the right choice for me
Mhm.
going, it was the right choice for me meeting the people that I met, like I don't regret that. The program I was in
Yeah.
debatably wasn't the best program for what I wanted to do with my life.
Sure.
But we'll get to talking about college. We kind of went to just talking about school and not specific teachers. I
Yeah.
don't know. Collectively, there were a bunch of teachers in my high school that really influenced me, and one of them in ninth grade was my world history teacher, Mr. Johnson,
Uh-huh.
and he was the one who started planning the trip to Greece and Italy that I took
Mm.
3 years later. I took, I was in ninth grade history class with him, and the trip was planned for the summer between my junior and senior year. And so when I went on that trip, I just learned so much from him because he's been there so many times. And that was a really influential trip on me. So that, now I probably couldn't tell you anything about world history, maybe a little bit, but when I was younger at the time, it just was really cool. Like he would talk about art and things that happened in Greek history and Italian history, and seeing it in person.
Mhm.
Like we went to the Colosseum, we went to Venice, we went to like all these really cool places. Um, we went to like the Greek islands. It was really cool. So that was a huge influence on me when I was younger. And then all 4 years, I had the same choir and drama teacher, um, and they would work on the musicals together and the shows together. And Mr. Bushy, the choir teacher, is like was a really good leader, and he expected a lot of from us, and he got the results he wanted because we were some of the top choirs in the county and in the lower part of Michigan, and he was teacher of the year from like the country. Like I think
Wow.
once, like I remember that he won some really big award, and I think that was a year after I graduated. But like he was the most influential choir teacher. Um, he just retired like a few years ago, but
Mhm.
he worked for so long. You know,
Yeah.
he built that program from nothing, and so he was a pretty good influence, not just on me, but if you would ask any student there, they probably would say Mr. Bushy was a really influential teacher on them. um, and then
That's
Ms.
so
Malo, my
cool.
drama teacher, she's like one of my mom's good friends now. Like they hang out um, pretty often outside of school, and because my mom would work on the shows with her. And she was the same. She expected a lot from her drama students, and got the results that she was expecting from us. And at least a majority of us respected her. There were a few stragglers. There were a few stragglers in that where they were just kind of taking drama because they thought it was easy. But then when they got to Malo, it was like, no, you're learning the Shakespeare monologue, and it's not easy,
Mhm.
especially in advanced drama. You had to audition to be in advanced drama. And I was in it my senior year, and I learned a lot. And I probably, if I didn't have that influence of her as a teacher, I probably wouldn't could stick with theater. Like I probably would have tried to go into graphic design or something. Um, I didn't really like my graphic design teacher in high school, but he was pretty influential too because I still do graphic design, and so I learned all of what I know from him. And so yeah, I had his classes for 3 years, and so we did a lot of weird projects, and we designed posters and packaging and like all that really cool stuff. So I only do posters now, but everything I know about art and like theory and like shape and line and all that terminology I learned from him. So high school was pretty influential on me creatively. So yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. And then college, of course. I mean, we went to school together, and so we teachers we had somewhat overlapped, but you were in a completely different program than me. So
Yeah,
I don't know
for
what about college?
a big chunk of it. Um, I changed my majors like a few times, but I minored in theater and you
Right.
majored in it. So I would say that my most influential professors in college was definitely my lead teacher that I was paired with for my student teaching because she was someone that I had admired when I was observing in the lab for like 2 or 3 years. And then she ended up being I was in her small group when I did my class being like a TA.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was my lead teacher when I was student teaching. So that was really cool that um, I was put with her because she's super outdoorsy, and I just feel like my philosophies aligned with hers a lot. And she was like one of the kindest, sweetest leads that was there, in my opinion. Everyone was
Yeah.
super nice, but I just feel like I clicked more with her. And yeah, she was really great.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
For sure.
So, do you have any of the theater professors that were super influential to you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Anne, who, she's a costume designer and she um was my advisor as well. And so she taught me a lot with, I worked in the costume shop with her and Mary, who was the shop manager. And so
hmm
they were pretty influential on me because they taught me a lot of the skills that I know. And um I'll be forever grateful because I'm trying to hone in those skills
Yeah.
and learn things that they didn't have time to teach me.
hmm
I had a lot of classes with Anne where I learned a lot of things. I took like props with her and costume design, of course, but I was the only BFA, you know, for a while. Like the program's not that big,
hmm
um, tech wise, and so I was one of two BFAs when I graduated, and our friend Lainey
hmm
like signed her major as while I was leaving, and so now she's going to be a BFA, and she might be the only one for a while. Like
Yeah.
we don't know, and so there's not a lot of
Because
us that come
the
through.
BFA program, I mean, most of the people that you find being BFAs in theater are the music theater people.
Yeah.
So you don't find a lot of just theater and interpretation with BFA. Danny was a
hmm
BFA, right?
Danny was a BFA, but she was the acting directing
Oh, hmm
route. Yeah. So, and we graduated at the same time. So she did that. And, so those are pretty influential people. Dr. Connors, of course, you
Yeah,
know, learned a lot from Dr. Connors we took one history class together. Was it history one or two?
it was history 2.
Two. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, all those teachers, in some way, I think, I had a lot of them or interacted with a lot of them
Yeah.
in the program. There were some who were more at communication, and I didn't
hmm
take a lot of communication classes, but like Dan and Stan, even though I had Dan for a few
Oh,
classes, and
Stan.
Stan, oh yeah,
He
Stan
has
was
my
great.
heart. I love
Yeah,
Stan so
totally.
much. He was one that I was gonna talk about. He was just like super, because he's super patient and
Mm-hmm.
everything. And so the like first couple of times I was stage managing, he like I felt like I could go to Stan more than anyone else because he was telling me like, oh, on the side, he would tell me like, oh, you should be doing this and that, and I'll help you get it set up. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, awesome. So
for
yeah.
sure.
But
He
I
was a
liked
really
Anne
good,
too. Anne was super cool.
yeah.
And Dr. Connors. I learned a lot from Dr. Connors.
hmm
So, yeah.
Yeah, I was with Stan, I think his last summer theater, I
Mhm.
want to say. And so I knew nothing about lighting, but they assigned me to do one of the most difficult lighting shows. And to this day, I still don't know why, because it was Dr. Connor's show, and Dr.
Yeah.
Connors, he knows what he wants, and and he expects to get it.
Oh yeah.
And that's not horrible, as a director. Yeah, you should have the vision that you want, but it was a very difficult show. And I remember Stan like teaching me everything about, doing cues and lights. And the very last location we were at, normally when you do lights, you can press a button to go to the next cue. But for the very last location we were at for the summer, I had to do it live.
Mhm.
I was
You
moving
were adjusting the
sliders.
levels, yeah, the
I was
sliders.
adjusting levels, and it wasn't the best show of the shows that summer but because I wasn't used to doing that, and I really didn't know what I was doing. But Stan walked me through. I think he stayed extra to help me walk through doing it live because I was so confused and I was so nervous
Mhm.
doing that final show. Um, but we got through it. I think I still have the notebook of the cues he wrote me,
Aw.
just like memorabilia, like
Yeah.
so yeah, he was pretty. And Dr. Connors, I went on my second study abroad experience with him. We went to Ireland, and taking Irish history and theater was a really cool class to take. It was so, I don't want to say niche, but it was so specific. I'll say
Mhm.
specific. It was just like the overlap that theater has with Irish history is so prominent and important. and you can see the reflection. Like I would really like to go and look up, learn more about American history and American theater and
Yeah,
how those
totally.
overlap. I'm sure a lot of theater around the world overlaps with the own country's
Oh
history.
yeah.
It's it's just
My
really fun.
most influential class, my favorite class I ever took, ever, was theater in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
It was so rad, and it was the first time that Dr. McConnell was teaching it because she was working on the Fireflies. And
Oh
so
my
I
gosh.
feel like that class was basically so that she could work on the Fireflies because I remember we tested it and we did like a staged reading of the Fireflies and everything, and it was so cool. And I wanted to audition for the Fireflies so bad, and Dr. McConnell wanted me to so bad, but that was the semester that my mom passed away. And so then I
Right,
took
yeah.
the next semester off, which is when the Fireflies happened,
Mhm.
and I didn't do anything. That's one of my biggest regrets. But I was able to merge like two of my interests into one, and I feel like a lot of people took that class for granted, but I got a lot out of that class. Like, that was
Yeah.
the coolest class that I have ever taken. And I'm sure that she's changed it now, obviously, because the, um, she's not workshopping the Fireflies anymore. So it's probably a different experience now, but, um, yeah, it was so amazing. It was
Yeah.
so
I hope
cool.
she's still teaching it. Like that, yeah, that is a really important another thing you would not expect theater to overlap with, you
Yes,
know?
it was so
Yeah, but
interesting because that's the first time that I learned about absurdism because it came
mhm.
out of World War One and World War Two
Mhm.
as a way to cope with like not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
So absurdism came out of that, and that's one of my favorite um, theater. What's it called? Genres?
Isms. We always
Isms.
just call them
Isms.
isms.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones, absurdism. And
I like absurdism too.
yeah, waiting for Godot is really
Oh
cool.
my God, yeah.
Yeah, we did a lot of really cool things in that class. I learned a lot. It was so cool.
Yeah.
That's my favorite class.
Yeah, I always was offered to take, like she always wanted me to take it. She always sent me emails because
Oh, yeah.
um I worked the Fireflies show, and I didn't design the actual production, but I had her the semester before it actually happened,
Mhm.
and the we workshopped it too. I went to a reading of it too. We probably were in the same reading, and I didn't even know it. We
Yeah,
might have been. I was in a
probably.
reading, and I was the ladybug, and I had a puppet.
Oh.
Um, and what was I going to say? Oh, okay. So the final project of like theater appreciation that she taught was you could do a theater related thing.
Mhm.
I don't know how to say it, but I designed theoretical costumes, for the Fireflies
Oh,
production,
cool.
and she loved it. That's why she asked me the second time we were doing Fireflies, they were going over,
To
to
Prague.
perform it to Prague to perform it. She wanted me to costume design it with those original designs, and I already had accepted a summer job, so I couldn't. And
That would have been so sick.
yeah, that would have been really cool. But I don't think we had the budget to do what I wanted.
Nah.
And so I would have been disheartened having these really cool original designs because it was all flower based. And
Yeah.
so all the clothes were as if I treated the characters, they were bugs and insects, but I treated them like fairies. And you know how fairies always have
Oh.
like, leaves and
Oh.
flower petals and things like that. And so that's how I designed the show, using things that they would have had to
Mhm.
clothe themselves. Um,
I still
it,
have all the music and the script and everything that we were
yeah.
given for it because I don't know, the story behind it and everything, that
Oh
was
yeah.
so amazing to me.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's my favorite class. And I remember like I would recommend it to people all the time. I'm like, whatever you do, anytime theater in the Holocaust pops up, take that class.
Yeah,
It is
seriously.
like the best decision that you will ever make. And they're like, no. And I'm like, all right.
I don't know I don't know who you're trying to
It was in the
imitate,
green
but
room. It was just a collective
it was a
theater
collective
department.
green room noise. um, and like speaking of influential shows, 100 Dresses, even though the
Oh,
experience
yeah.
was not the best experience, doing the 100 Dresses, the project I did for that, was really, um, it tested my abilities to a point where I've never tested them before. Because
Hmm.
drawing that much of the same thing, like drawing 100 dresses, I only ended up drawing 70 because,
But that was
time. And
so cool.
it was really cool, and they were all projected. It was a really interesting production that we had, um, and doing all the backgrounds and things like that. Now, some of the people I worked with on that show were not professors at our school. They came in as
Hmm.
guest artists, and they were not the best people to work with. But everyone really liked the work that I did. I remember Keely, who was another professor, she asked Nancy, "Did we hire someone to do those backgrounds? Like, are those like paid pictures?" And she was like, "No, Caitlin drew them." And I remember Keely being, really
That's so
surprised at
cool.
that. It's nice to be recognized by your faculty at that
Oh,
age
yeah.
because sometimes you're not, and then you're like, "Am I doing this right?
Hmm.
Am I okay?"
Hmm.
And so, yeah.
And I worked with Nancy on Mother Hicks, and that
Oh,
is
yeah.
one of my most influential shows. Nancy is just an all around great person that does not get
Mm-hmm.
the appreciation that she deserves.
No, I agree. She and Dr. McConnell are like they're like weird they're weird teachers, but you can learn a lot from them if you just like
And
have the
Jill.
patience to listen.
Jill,
Yeah.
Nancy, and Lauren are
See,
like,
I never really interacted with Jill, and I regret it every day. I
oh, I
hear
love
about
her.
Jill all the time, because I never took those communication classes
Oh.
that
You
she
didn't have to
taught.
take, but who did you take um theory and crit with?
I never had to take theory and crit.
What?
Yeah, I never took theory and crit.
Oh.
Thank God, I would have died. No, I never had to do
You
theory and
didn't
crit.
have to do like Intro to Interpretation 170?
I did take that class, but that was a teacher that's not there anymore. She's a
Oh.
communications professor. Actually, fun fact, I was in that class the very first day, and they were like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm from Howell, Michigan." And she was like, "Oh, my nephew went to Howell High. Maybe you know him, and his name is Max." And I was like, that's one of my best. I'm not going to say though. I know
Yeah,
Wellington, And so I was like, oh, I put two and two together. That was one of my really good friends in high school, my
that's so
last few
cool.
years. I was like, of course I have your aunt. And so I had to call him up and be like, your aunt's my teacher. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's cool. But that's who I took that class with, but she's not there anymore, but she was really cool.
Oh,
Um, yeah. Nobody never had to take, I'm so glad I didn't have to take some of those theory classes. I took every technical theater class that was
oh
offered.
yeah. I mean, theory and crit wasn't that bad. It was just Jill was like trying a different way of doing it the semester
Mm-hmm.
that we had it, and I was also with um Kyle Kelly in the class,
Oh.
and he's a little shit. So that I don't know. Jill
Yeah.
hated our class. I just know she hated us. It was
Yeah.
with Anthony and Jordan and Kyle Kelly,
Oh my
and
God.
the
Oh,
gang was
all
all there. The
troublemakers.
whole gang.
All troublemakers, all of them.
It was.
Yeah.
It was crazy sauce.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. Every time we record for longer and longer.
I
I really
know.
like it.
Yeah.
I like that we can
This was
talk
a
for
good
an hour.
podcast. I
This was
liked
really good.
talking about school.
Yeah. And you would think that we would never want to talk about it again because we're both done, but
Well, I mean,
we
I
just,
live it every day.
yeah, that's true.
Funnily enough, like, we didn't really talk about preschool. I mean, you went to preschool on CMU's campus, their lab,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty cool. We should talk about their lab sometime because it's so
Oh, yeah.
sick. And I went to like a daycare that was kind of a preschool. Um, it was childcare, but then when you get up to preschool age, like they start teaching you little
Right.
things like how to write your name and stuff. And I did not have a good preschool experience at all. Like all my vivid memories are not good. And I have very vivid memories from
Oh.
being at that daycare, and they're not happy memories. And so I think that that is one of the reasons why I wanted to teach that age. One, because I love that age, 3 to 5 is like they're so fun to be with,
Mm-hmm.
but also like I want to make sure that they're having happy experiences because it sets you up
Yeah, for
for
sure. It's a tip
school.
of everything.
Mhm.
Like your impression of what teachers do and how school is like starts the moment you start you start attending.
Yeah.
And so it takes a really influential teacher to change your opinion. Like
Mhm.
because I grew up around teachers, I was really understanding of what they went through.
Mhm.
I saw the other side of, having to deal with parents, having to deal with a lot of other things, students that weren't cooperating. I was not the most well liked by a lot of the boys in the school, all
Because
the
your parents
troublemakers,
were.
because my dad was the shop teacher, and if he
Oh.
wasn't strict about wearing, safety goggles in his class around saws and, drills and all that stuff, people would get hurt. And
Yeah.
so he has to be a really strict teacher. And so when the boys found out that he was my dad, I was like immediately disliked by a lot of
Yeah.
people. And so, but I understood. Like I remember one time, we had to write a a little essay about tenure,
Mhm.
and I was one of the few students who said that teachers deserve to have tenure.
Mhm.
And that's like a huge controversial thing, because it's like, what if they do something bad? And I'm like, well, that's most teachers don't do anything bad, and they deserve to have job security as much as anyone else.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because that's essentially what it is, kind of. But I remember my teachers talking out in the hallway, and they're like, "Oh, this Caitlin said that we should have tenure, so we should have." I was like, "Oh, I like the only person to write about?" And they're like, "Practically, yeah," because I understood what it means to be on the other side.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, so I have a huge appreciation for all teachers out there, because kids are shits, and so kids of all age and college students, are a different category of their own. So I always have a really big appreciation for people who take on. It's a difficult job. So
Yeah,
I
totally.
appreciate you. You are
Thank you.
also an influential person in my life
I
who
try.
also is a teacher.
I don't think that I said this on the podcast yet, but I came into a really tough room. Like everyone knew that it was. And I mean, I said last week that I have kids that are actually enjoying themselves and are having
Mm-hmm.
fun in my room now, which is great. And I have a couple that like in our afternoon class, it's a trend now that when we're putting them on the bus, they give us all hugs. They give me a hug, they give Miss Kiera a hug, and it feels really good every day.
That's so
And
cute.
I did have um one parent, we did like a carnival thing, and I had one parent that said, "Can I get a picture of you with my child?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And so I took a picture with the kid, and then the parent was saying, like, she talks about you all the time. Like, she really loves you. I don't think you understand how much she loves being in your class. And it was it wasn't like that in the beginning of the year, and we are so beyond grateful that you came into her life and that you are her teacher. And
Wow.
I almost cried because I'm like, I've only been with these kids for a couple months. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
extremely validating for me.
Yeah. It can be an extremely rewarding
Mhm.
experience, teaching someone else and like seeing them grow and
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
for
talking
sure.
to
I'm getting
Josh.
teary-eyed thinking about your story.
Yeah, I was talking to Josh about that actually because it's like I'm seeing that a lot with my morning class. I have some issues in my afternoon class, so they unfortunately I feel like I could have done more but wasn't able to. But
Mm-hmm.
my morning class, like when I came in, they had no concept of like they couldn't recognize their name, and this was January. They couldn't recognize their name. They had no concept of colors, shapes, numbers, anything. And I remember the day we did a STEM activity that was basically like talking about shapes, like what shape is this? And I introduced like circles, squares, triangles, and had them go in the room and find things that fit into those shapes. And it was like watching a collective light bulb go off in their heads,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden their like minds were expanded. And that day at snack, like they could barely eat their snack because everything was a shape. The cup is a circle, the doorknob is a circle, the door is a rectangle, and it was like it was crazy. Like I
Yeah.
remember that. I'll never forget that day. And now like because they know it and it's ingrained in them now, it's not like that big of a deal. So like finding shapes are like, well, of course, it's a circle. And so it's like only through the things that I did with them were they able to get to that point. And so, especially with that age, I think going forward, it's going to be extremely rewarding and extremely
Mm-hmm.
validating because next year I have full day of 3-year-olds. So, like,
Aw.
they have nothing, basically. A couple of them are coming from half day, so they will be in full day, so they kind of know school.
Mm-hmm.
But for some of them, I feel like this will be their first time being at school, and it's going to be super cool to see them like grow and learn. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
That'd be so fun for you. I
Mhm.
can't wait to hear all about it.
I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. So, do you have anything going on? Your last day of school is next week.
Yeah, my last day with the kiddos is on Thursday. Um, we're really not doing anything this week to celebrate. I don't know. We'll probably just have a pretty chill week
Yeah, for sure.
because I think I might do like one science experiment with them. I want to do like sink and float type thing
Oh, okay.
to get their brains.
To brine their brains. Isn't
Yep.
brining how you make pickles?
Yeah. I might do that like on Wednesday or something. So like one
Yeah.
last thing to do. Oh, we did butterflies. I didn't talk about that.
Oh,
We
that's
had
cute.
butterfly kits. Everyone did because we were learning about insects. So we got caterpillars and then, they made their little cocoons and then they turned into butterflies and we just let them go. And so that was like a really, really cool thing to see them so excited about
Yeah.
the butterflies. And it was funny. Okay, I have one more story. Um, so I've been reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's what you read when you have caterpillars and butterflies. And so like they were so into it and that's how they learn cocoons and now they like know it. Now they can just talk about it however. So when our caterpillars made their cocoons, I decided that we were going to do watercolor coffee filter butterflies. So
Mm-hmm.
I read The Very Hungry Caterpillar and I asked them what colors they thought that the butterfly would be when they came out of their cocoons. Then we decorated the coffee filters. I have this one little boy in my morning class who's like, he's my oldest kid in both my
Mm-hmm.
classes combined. Like, he's 5.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and he just turned 5, but he's 5. And he is you can tell he's very left-brained. Like he is really into science. He's very into like sorting and everything like that. So we have like a bin of plastic insects that the kids can play with. And I was saying like, what colors do you think the butterfly are gonna be? And he just like raised his hand and was like, Miss Becca, they're not gonna be rainbow. And I was like, what? Why not? And he was like, they're gonna be like, hold on. And he stood up and went and got the monarch butterfly from the insect bin and came and said, it's gonna look like this.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like, oh, you think so? And he was like, yeah. And so we did our coffee filters and everything. And you could tell, like, while he was doing it, he was like, but it's not gonna look like this. You know what I mean? Like, it was really bothering him.
Listen to me.
And then when the butterflies came out, they were monarch butterflies. And everyone was around the our little butterfly habitat thing. And he like went over there and looked at it and then went and he was sitting down for breakfast and he had this look on his face and then he just quietly was like, Miss Becca. And this was like weeks later, like a couple weeks later. And I was like, yes. And he was like, everyone thought the butterflies were gonna be rainbow, but I knew that they were gonna look like that. And I was
Oh,
like, yeah. And I was like, how did you know that? And he said that he'd seen pictures of butterflies before. So he knew that, like, the book was just a story and that they
yeah.
weren't gonna really look like that. And he, like, knew it, like, in his core, like, in his soul. He knew. And he was, like, looking at them like, what a bunch of little dumbasses. They thought it was gonna be rainbow, but, like, hello.
Oh, you
It,
plebs.
it was funny.
Oh, you 3-year-olds thought. I'm 5 and I know.
It was really funny.
That's so cute.
Mhm.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
Using the logic that he has as a 5-year-old and like remembering
Yeah, totally.
things from he's seen in books and stuff.
It was so
That's really
funny.
fun.
Uh,
I never did butterflies growing up. Anyway,
oh, you should do it now. It's so
I made
magical.
snow.
You made snow?
I made snow. I made. But speaking of the weather, okay, no, what I meant to say. What I meant to say was we are way over time, by the way. It's like we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes. Isn't that crazy?
What? Sorry. I was not paying attention. I'm on my phone.
I said we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes. Isn't
Yeah,
that
that's
crazy?
crazy. I'm
Yeah, we
checking
need
out
to.
apparently.
Yeah, you are. So I want to tell this final story.
Yeah.
It's really quick. I
Okay.
did the morning news in my 5th grade.
Aw,
So every morning I was a news anchor and did that. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. It
that's really
influenced
cute.
me
It
to
influenced
talk
you,
and
but you're not a newscaster, so it must not have
I
influenced
talk
you.
in front of a camera all the time. So
That's
that
cute.
I was can't it took away my camera shyness. Anyway,
Mhm.
well,
Totally.
next week we will talk again. I'll probably talk more about theater in Ohio and you can talk to me about what it's like being on summer break.
Yeah.
Finally. So, all right. Thanks for joining us this week, guys.
Bye.
Bye. We need to come up with a better outro, but that'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do.